we're focused on, in the grand scheme of things, the work that we're doing should be enabling people to answer these questions and focus on these larger things that are not so much meta governance and these kind of things. I don't know if anyone has any comments on this, but feel free to just chime in if you want. And of course, this leads into the conversation on respect, which is a big part of why we're here. So I might cover some of this if we have some dead air to fill here, so to speak. But just wanted to bring in that one little snippet from the white paper.
Joshua, that's awesome. It's very inspiring. When I read the white paper, I read it very quickly and sort of skimmed it. And that part you shared is great. I've put a screenshot of it there in the chat just so to remind myself to review it again if anyone else wants to download it. But yeah, I think a lot of the questions that are asked right there are the primary reasons why I'm participating with Fractally. And prior to this launching of Fractally, I really feel as though a lot of those questions were in my heart, and I felt as though the EOS community, by and large, sort of has that philosophical underpinning that wants to answer those questions. Maybe not everybody, but I feel as though Dan is really, in terms of the leader of this idea of what technology is all about and how it can be used and for what purposes, is really sort of the leader of this group. And I'm happy to be part of it. It's exciting for me. I think that this message, if more people hear this and understand this, is a very compelling narrative that is attractive to people that want change and a better way of doing things.
Hoorah! Very, very well said, Doug. Lenny made a point that we in our messaging and for other fractals to consider, maybe avoid the use of the word cure because of its perception, and it is kind of heavily politicized, particularly in the United States. Another comment: creating a new legal system is what inspires me in DAOs, along other things. So for those who are just jumping on, we just read a little paragraph out of the white paper. A little section that's asking questions about what if DAOs can do what they have done, what else can they do, more or less, which is right before the white paper gets into the subject of respect. Okay, if there's any new people other than the gentleman that we already addressed, just let us know in the chat. I don't see anyone. Okay, I want to, now that a few more people have jumped on, I want to go ahead and bring up this post that Dan just made so we can all be thinking about it. So this was just made. A lot of you maybe haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to go over it, spoon feed it to us real quick. And then we can discuss a little bit, and we'll have more time to discuss after. After we go into our breakout rooms today, I'm going to host the after meeting, and that's going to become like a regular thing. We're going to start to create a little more structure to that. So this is something we can also discuss, afterwards as well. So the title of this proposal is Genesis Fractal Branding and Interim Group Consensus Process. So there's double whammy here. So this is a logo mock-up of the potential branding, the Genesis Fractal, which is explained here. Some community members have asked about whether they can use the Fractally logo in their promotional efforts, and we've talked about this recently. And Fractally team is flattered that so many people want to help share the ideas and the Fractally brand. However, there are some very practical business considerations that have to be taken into account. For example, Fractally has to protect their own trademark from abuse by those who would work against the mission of Fractally or just Fractally as an entity, as a team, and our community. Or Fractally could lose the right to their trademark altogether if they don't protect it. And after giving it some thought, the realization was that the Genesis fractal, being its own virtual entity apart from Fractally LLC, needs its own logo and branding elements.
I'm on a call right now.
And any Genesis fractal logo, of course, would have to be adopted by our community's consensus. And Dan and the team thought about it, and they put together a concept that they would be happy to license for the community to use. And this is the concept. So this logo builds on the idea of our social channels and our community website, which is gofractally.com. And that's also what the handles are for things like the Twitter account and the Telegram group. So Go Fractally, while also symbolizing Genesis fractal, this is the meaning here. So you can see the G, and you can see how the Fractally logo is being used as the O. So what we're looking at here is a symbol for the word go. And then also, if this is the Fractally logo, and if fractals, we'll be using hexagons and things, then we have Genesis fractal also being symbolized here.
And infinity as well.
Oh yeah, and the infinity. I didn't even notice that. Yeah, that's actually really cool. And just continuing on here in the post, thanks for mentioning that, Dan. So the team feels that this logo is a call to action to encourage people to go for it and get the respect you deserve, which is pretty cool. Very concise, but multiple meaning symbolism here, and then the infinity logo in there, which had the infinity logo itself has a lot of meaning. To me, I kind of like the meaning of constantly iterating things. So if we were looking at cycles of innovation, maybe in one side of the infinity loop, you're constantly inventing new things, and on the other side, you're constantly improving things that already exist, which is what any organization needs to do if they want to survive and thrive. Because if you don't do one of those things, somebody else is going to replace you, and we've seen that happen in various industries.
We're also balancing masculine and feminine energy. The curve is the feminine, and the masculine is the solid edges on the fractal. So it's kind of bringing all those things together. It could still be tweaked some. This is just an initial concept. There's probably some things we can do with how the G flows into the other, but it also looks like an arrow, right? The G is a loop with an arrow pointing, just so you can kind of see the motion and the flow.
Wow.
And it looks really good on the aspect ratio for the preview cards on Twitter and whatnot. So overall, I'm really happy with the way this turned out. I hope the community also likes it, and then they can use it. So when I say license to the community, I basically mean it does incorporate the Fractally logo on one half of it, so it kind of like ties us together. But basically, it would be an unrestricted license for anyone to use, not subject to our trademark copyright for this particular use of the half of it that is the Fractally logo.
Yeah, well, this is super cool, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to mock this up for all of us. So I guess before we move on to the other part of the post here, does anyone want to chime in with any additional comments on this?
I'm just glad this is being clarified, because when someone had suggested the use of it, I responded to it with a lot of questions, and I didn't know if the issue was going to be addressed. And I like it. I like that there was an answer, and there's a way to move forward with not having to think too much about nitpicking things. You know what I'm saying? I like it.
Dan, thank you for taking the initiative and thinking about us as a community. And it is awesome, in my humble opinion. Thank you to you and your team for donating this and giving us something that's going to help us all.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. Thomas put it together with some work with the team, and so I think that I would love to see other community members do some variations on it, see how we can spice it up. But I think that it's a really good source for inspiration. So let's talk about the the process for ratifying this. This is the second part of the blog post. We don't need to read it. I can kind of go over some of the concepts, and I'll repeat this, I guess, at the top of the hour when everyone else starts. So right now, we don't have a council. And normally what the normal process on the fractal white paper would be for the council to propose things and for it to automatically pass after a couple of days, unless the teams act to change their team leaders. But because the size of our community is about 60 people, and on any given week, about 30 people show up, we don't really have enough competition or enough teams at this stage to actually form a council. But we're also small enough that we can actually have everyone on one video call and still communicate productively. So we have other opportunities that are available at this scale that are not available at the scale of a fractal that gets to 7,000 plus people. So the interim process that I'm proposing for reaching consensus is that you write up your proposal and you submit it to Hive under the blog for the weekly meeting. We mentioned the proposal in the 15 minutes beforehand. So, hey, there's this proposal here. And after we do the consensus rankings, the top 6 are going to meet and they're going to review the proposals and reach a consensus to accept or reject each proposal. And if they don't reach a consensus on that, then they lose their respect for the week. So there's going to be real incentive for the top 6 to reach consensus on every proposal that is submitted. At most one proposal per team member. In the blog post, I propose that only those who have a history of ranking 5 or 6 at least 3 times in the past are the ones that can submit proposals. So you can't get proposals from new people or whatnot. But there's some kind, if we have an abuse problem with spamming the proposal system, we can adopt various pre-filters to keep things manageable. But in that way, the community can reach consensus on things like adopting a logo. We can reach consensus on other interim measures. For example, if we want to change the date and time of our meetings. And all those things can we can use this process to do those types of group decisions. While by announcing it in a blog post before the meetings, everyone knows that this is going to be discussed after the meetings. And it's entirely possible that the rank 6 members will say, we're going to reject it this week just because there wasn't enough notice. And then the following week, we can let the next group of 6 decide to ratify it. And of course, nothing is overly permanent. It's very easy to change things from week to week if necessary, so that the community policies and procedures are aligned with our general consensus of the way it should be. So when you're picking your rank 6 member, for now, keep in mind that they're getting 2 roles. One role is to vote on the proposals that are before the community for this week, and the other is their past contributions. And this is a efficiency thing. I don't really like combining things into one meeting so much, but yeah, basically, if you don't trust someone to make good judgments, don't rank them 6, rank them 5. They're making good judgments is probably the single most valuable thing you can contribute to the community. So that's another way of looking at it. If they're doing great stuff, but you don't trust them to act on behalf of the community, then they're not actually contributing as much as they could be contributing. I think in general, those who rank 6 can largely be trusted, particularly because they have to reach consensus with the other people who rank 6. So I think you don't have to think too much about it. You can focus on their contributions primarily. And if you have any spare time in your breakout session, that's an opportunity to discuss the proposals of the week, just so that your voice is heard and that the rank 6 person can choose to factor that into their thinking when they go to accept or reject proposals. So that's, of course, the interim process. We can use this process to change the process. It's incredibly flexible. One of the principles of fractally is to protect the ability to reach a new consensus, because that is freedom. Tyranny is preventing a community from reaching a new consensus. You have to have the right tension there, so you just don't dissolve of no consensus because nothing sticks. But you also don't want it to be so rigid that no, this person's a dictator for life, de facto, because no one can organize enough consensus to change it. And that's sort of the problem we face in the world today. All right, that's my spiel. Lenny, you have a question?
Just a little bit. I read the proposal just 15 minutes before we got online, so I haven't really thought about it. But one thing I did react against was proposals only to come from the top 2 tiers. And I feel that's not a good idea, because artists and good marketers might be anywhere in our ranks. And I would leave that open myself, because we are not that many. And the top tier will still be the deciders, and they would be easily filtered out, any rubbish coming through, let's put it that way. But we might lose some real genius thoughts coming through from the lower ranks in effort so far. Just a point to make on that part. Otherwise, I love the whole thing.
Anyone who's a lower rank can ask someone who's a higher rank to introduce it. So you're not prevented from having your ideas heard. You're not prevented from making a proposal. You just have to find at least one higher ranked person to second your motion, to have it heard before the group. So
sounds good to me.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. As long as you could find someone who can endorse it of that higher rank, that seems should be adequate. That way you can filter out a lot of the noise and distribute that load amongst those who are ranked higher.
Yeah, and that way the people who do rank 6 can just focus on the proposals that matter. Keep in mind, the entire community has to consider every proposal that's actually up for consideration, at least so they can offer feedback on it. And so we need some gateway. More advanced systems would actually have some kind of penalty if it's not accepted, so that effectively you only propose things that are largely discussed and you have a good sense or probably be accepted beforehand, and then you take a risk. But I decided to keep it simple right now and just accept, reject. Anyone who's abusing the system will start to rank lower if they do so. So I think we've got enough checks and balances that we can keep the rules really as simple as possible right now.
Well, for those who are just joining, we're discussing a recent proposal from the Fractally team to our community here, the Genesis Fractal. I'm going to put the link again in the chat if you haven't seen it yet. Whoops, this is a different link. Hold on. So the proposal is a Genesis Fractal branding and then also an interim group consensus process. So that's what we're talking about. You can see it all in that post there. This is something we'll be discussing after the meeting today. And you can also talk about it in your breakout rooms if you have time after finding consensus. One question that comes to mind for me about this is I sense that maybe this will kind of start to define the higher ranking contributors, I guess, a little more than what we've done to this point, because you won't, it's always been in the white paper, but I sense that it maybe hasn't carried as much weight in our decision-making process. But one of the things I've always reminded about is be mindful of who's if we were moving on to the next round, whoever's ranked number 6 would be going on to the next round. And so what are the implications of that? And this kind of brings up the thought process of not just respecting people's contributions that they bring a list to, but taking into account and getting to know their opinions and their values and the way that they would weigh in on things, and respecting and valuing people's opinions, which is what respect is according to the white paper. Respect is an opinion, and that, to me, that kind of shifts my viewpoint a little bit about how I might gauge things in the upcoming weeks if this is becoming a bigger factor.
The success of the community is we're here to create collaborative value. Collaborative value is us all working together to move in a common direction. And that means we have to define the direction. We have to reach consensus on the direction, and we row together. And we row with the team, even if we might disagree with the direction the team is going. Because, perfect, having everything go our way, right? Your individual perspective. Well, we've all got different individual perspective, and that just causes chaos, and we can't actually realize any value if we just try to do things our own way. But when we row with the community in the community's direction, then we can realize the collaborative value and get benefit that we would not personally receive if we insisted on doing things our way, and if we insisted that we're going to do things our way or we're not going to participate at all. Now, I realize, as I'm saying this, that there's some critiques from the EOS community. You could say, Dan, if the community doesn't go your way, you leave. And that's that's always an option, right? The secession, the ability to separate and form a new group, is the direction you need to maintain the ability to do in order to actually maintain your independence as an individual and to prevent the group from turning into tyranny. That said, it's not the first resort, it's the last resort. And when a community, if it maintains its DNA and it maintains its focus, it will maintain the people the initial founders. And there's a pattern throughout lots of communities that's been studied. You got the initial founders, and then you get wild success, and it brings in a bunch of other people that have different values. And eventually they change the values away from what the founders of the community wanted, so it's no longer suitable for the founders. And then the community starts, just the life cycle of communities on the internet. And it happens inside crypto, outside crypto. It's a real challenge of how do you grow a community, bringing in new people without losing your identity as a community. My hope is that the processes that we're putting here will allow us to defend our identity as a community, our principles of life, liberty, property, justice for all, of consensus building, of voluntary association, and of producing collaborative value, working together. That those principles will, as we invite new people, they will adhere to those principles, and that we would set up policies and processes to protect that identity so that as we grow and mature, we can maintain that identity. And so when you look at something like EOS, it started off with, I wrote a constitution and tried to do a lot of these things we're doing with Fractally now, but because of the token sale, EOS ended up controlled by the people who bought it, which is different than the people who founded it, or right? It's a combination of what Block One did and what the buyers of EOS tokens and the Chinese and the exchanges. It took on that DNA and became more of a code as law situation. And now it's evolved into more of a centralized, foundation-centered structure, which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of those particular things. It's just not what my mission was, which was to find free market voluntary solutions for securing life, liberty, property, and justice for all. And that means having new consensus building, new justice, new currency, all those things, dealing with the soft, fuzzy problems that are more challenging in the crypto space that maybe it's a little bit more niche than buying tokens and hoping they go up. But I think it's the harder problem that produces larger rewards when it pays off, when we are successful and we find the right ingredients. So I want to thank everyone for being here to help, mine that collaborative gold out of the hills, because we couldn't do it. No person can solve the problem of governance alone. You need to solve it with other people, and that's what we're here doing. We're proving what works, and so thank you so much for that.
All right, if there's any new people, if you could just let me know in the chat that you're new, and I can make sure that you're ready to go. I see maybe one person may have just joined us who might be first timer today. Welcome to anybody who is new. And this is the main event. We're segueing now from our pre-meeting into the main event. We just discussed a new proposal from the Fractally team for branding for this Genesis Fractal group, as well as an interim group consensus process. I'll post that again in the chat. This is going to be a topic of discussion. Maybe if you have time at the end of your breakout rooms, and in the post-meeting time, we'll cover this as well. And in the after party, I'm not really sure what to call it, but we will have a after the main event party that I'll be hosting today. And thank you to the Fractally team for putting this together. We really appreciate it.
Can you go ahead and put that on the screen?
Sure.
Bring that up. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today for our meeting. This blog post I posted to Hive about an hour ago. It's born out of some questions that were asked last week about using the Fractally logo in community-driven marketing efforts. And that's a really challenging question, because as a business, we need to protect our trademarks in order to defend against people that would attempt to sell similar products under our brand that are different, or to defraud people, or to work against our community's interest. So as a business, we need to protect our logo. However, we want to facilitate the community to be able to do that. And so we came up with this black and white one and the color one up above. This is the Genesis Fractal logo. It's just a proposal. The community would have to choose to adopt it. This logo symbolizes go, for go fractally. All of our social branding is go. It's a call to action. It's also an infinity symbol. If you guys see that, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And it looks really good on the preview cards for social platforms. So this logo would be, or variations thereof, this is just a preliminary concept, could be adopted by the community, used without any restriction. It's the communities to represent and to promote things. We think it'd look really good on t-shirts. We think it kind of incorporates our logo, like Genesis Fractal, go fractally, and what we're doing here. So if you like it, provide your feedback and thoughts, or of course, anyone else is free to propose other things. So let's talk about my proposed proposal process. Just how do we make decisions as a group? We don't have enough people to have 12 teams of 12. And ideally, if you want the 12 top teams, so if you only had 12 teams of 12, that's barely enough. You'd want to have some teams that don't even qualify because they weren't competitive. But while we're small, we can use an alternative process for reaching group consensus that's based on the fractal governance process. So my proposal is that before each weekly meeting, any member who's ranked 5 or 6 at least 3 times may submit a proposal. They can submit a proposal, formally submit a proposal, by posting it in the comment section for the weekly meeting on Hive. And then after you reach consensus, if you have any time left over, you can share your thoughts on the proposals that are available. Then when we rejoin this group after the breakout rooms, the people who rank 6, we can have a discussion. Anyone can participate in this discussion, but the people who rank 6 will discuss, and they will then respond to the comment with either approve or reject. And if 2/3 of those approve, then we've made a group decision. Group decisions can be on things like changing the process. It can be things like the branding decision. So anything that the mission and vision and purpose of the Genesis Fractal, all those decisions are reached by this process. And then to mine collaborative value that we're all here to mine, we all move in the direction of those decisions, and we can just iterate. And of course, we're not stuck with anything. We can approve one logo this week and change it the next week if that's what the consensus is to do. And the purpose of fractal governance is to protect a community's ability to reach a new consensus that is respectable and trustworthy, and not subject to all the problems of traditional polling techniques or voting techniques or incumbent advantage and political parties and all that other jazz. We won't have that. We'll actually know that this is the consensus. And then if we all move toward it, we'll produce collaborative value. If we splinter every time there's a disagreement, then we won't be able to realize collaborative value we're all after. This will also solve the question of, well, what time should we meet? Is Saturday this time the best time to meet? Or should we as an entire group move to a different day of the week to meet? And so those are some of the things. Lots of stuff to talk about in the post-meeting today, but I'll leave that for any questions.
If you have a question, just go ahead and go to reactions and raise your hand, please, and we'll call on you. You can also type your questions or comments in the chat as well. Jason, go ahead.
Thanks. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Great. So this is a great idea, and I have two ideas to throw into the mix of this that might give it a little more longevity. Which is one being, it makes a lot of sense to have people who have had 5 or 6 3 times be the ones who make the proposals. I think as the number of meetings grows, that bar is going to lower, obviously, because you're going to have so many more people who can do that. And we might consider changing that number to be relative to the number of meetings that have happened, so that you still have so you don't have the case where, oh, well, everybody's ranked 5 or 6 now, so anybody can submit as a proposal.
Yeah, I would say that I would consider it within the past 3 months.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense, because it not only gives a limited amount of time, it also says recently, what have you done for us lately? And the other thing is, it might be good to enhance the time for deliberation. Because I could imagine that somebody makes a proposal and then everybody feels obligated to get to a complete vote within 20 minutes on something that a lot of talk should be had about before something happens.
Ideally, the proposals should not be surprise proposals that are just made and then passed within 2 hours. No one should be surprised at the proposals that are submitted. They should be heavily discussed ahead of time. And those who are ranked 6 should largely already know what it is, and the only purpose is to deliberate the final deliberation if it's a contentious decision. Clear. But I want to keep the process as simple as possible and not as prescriptive, and allow the subjective behavior of people adapt, so that the people are saying, we're going to reject this proposal, not because we think it's a bad proposal, but because we think the community needs a little bit more time and we don't feel comfortable approving it right now. And then we can subjectively determine whether or not something's had enough time for deliberation, rather than trying to define by making up some number what the appropriate amount of time is. Then we'll identify best practices, which we can generally follow while still having emergency powers if we need emergency powers to do something. Because this whole process is about building consensus, identifying the people who can be trusted to make that consensus, and then minimizing the harm that can be done. Because if a group of people proposes something one week and tries to ratify it, it can be changed the next week if that's a problem. So, there has to be notice. People have to be aware that in order to pass, it has to be posted in the comment section ahead of the meeting. And those are the only things that can be approved or rejected. They can't make up new things to approve or have any random business they want to carry on. But I think generally those who contribute the most are ranking 5 or 6 reliably. And if you don't rank 5 or 6, that's fine. You can just find somebody who does to introduce your ideas on your behalf. It's just a vetting process. So everyone's opinions and proposals are welcome. We just have to prevent spam of the thing. And the one caveat I forgot to mention is that the top ranked 6 people, they must reach a consensus for or against, or they don't get paid at all that week. So there's going to be a business. Hey, this is a proposal. Pass, yay, nay, boom, boom, boom. And if there's multiple, they might have to go through them very quickly because you got 1 hour to deal with business. And if you can't get it done in that hour, then you have to reach consensus to reject it and move forward. And so that creates incentive for consensus building, incentive to reach consensus and to come to a decision, and avoids the situation where there is no consensus, right? The consensus is no, the consensus is yes, but one way or another, there will be a consensus on every item in a defined period of time.
Yeah, the thing that you just introduced there that I didn't see yet, and I'm sure it's somewhere you intended to say it, is the consensus could be, we don't know enough yet. We're going to say no now, and we're going to bring this up again another time, and everybody could agree on that. Where the thing that I see often in the meetings that we have here about just the voting on who's contributed what and what the contributions are worth, often I see people feeling the need to just agree so that we get a consensus rather than honestly sharing their entire opinion and informing everybody about things that other people might not know about or might not have seen yet. And so what you just said introduces the opportunity for, at least a small minority, or at least a relative minority, go, hey, we don't know enough. And there's 45% of us in this vote that say we don't know enough and we need to consider this next week. So we're going to recommend that we say no for now and not no forever. And then we revise the proposal, have another discussion, come back next week and try this again. But let's not just rush to a yes or rush to a final no. And
Correct.
like you said, what we hadn't said, what I hadn't here before, is we can just change this next week, right? There is some kind of momentum though. If everybody voted and it was unanimous and we all said yes, it takes a lot more momentum to overturn that. So it might be wise to, make sure people know that not yet is a fine decision on this.
Well, they have to approve or reject. Any commentary is not part of the process, but it's you might want to explain your reasons so that people can trust you for being voted for rank 6, and people can have the courage to resubmit if they want to. So that's it's time to do the breakout rooms. Thank you everyone for joining us.
Yeah, one quick question, Dan. Would it be appropriate for me to post this as a comment now when we put this in practice today?
We can go ahead and do a practice run today. I think we need to, as a group, get practiced in making consensus decisions together. That would be huge. Okay,
I'm gonna open up the rooms and then post this comment. Everyone have a really good time. If you're new and you don't know what you're doing, just rely on the other members in your group to help you. Everyone, please prioritize any new people that you may have, and let's have some fun.
Antoine?
All right, we got a great crew here today.
I'm
Yes.
not sure I'm happy. I know every single guy here. That's no nice. But anyway, I'll now be quiet.
It's good to see you all, and also I'm recording, by the way. I'll share it at some point.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
All right, I've been doing a lot of talking today, so a lot of what you see in that post has been some of the work I've done this week. I got to give Thomas on this call. He's the one who put the logos together based on my suggestion of the G and the O. So that was a team effort between Thomas and I to produce the proposed logo. And the other thing we worked on this week was, well, how do we reach consensus on things like logos and other things? And so we met and we did that. Furthermore, I've been doing a lot of programming this week, largely toward putting the finishing touches on my new database that I'm backend, which is really the single biggest thing for blockchain performance and scalability, is getting this part right. BitShares introduced it with the first version of BitShares was built on the same database as Bitcoin, and it was slow. BitShares 1. BitShares 2 with Graphene, we went to memory map file, and all of a sudden we could do lots of transactions per second as long as everything fit in RAM. Steam had the same problem. Eventually they switched it to a database-backed thing, but with limitations. And then EOS, of course, requires lots of RAM. RAM is expensive. And what I wanted to do for Fractally is to be able to have the things bigger than RAM so that we can have a Steemit-like application, but maintain performance. I've got some really encouraging numbers and graphs and stuff that I look forward to sharing in the coming week. But needless to say, we've made substantial progress on that front, and the blockchain that we're using. I'm calling it the Fractally blockchain, but it's not going to be the Fractally blockchain when we actually launch it. It's going to have a name for the public chain, and the Fractally is going to be an interface on top of it. But for now, it's the Fractally blockchain is going to have this underpinning it, which will allow us to handle lots of data and have high performance for the stuff that fits in RAM. So that's really exciting from my perspective, and I know that everyone on the team is itching to release the code that backs it. We're doing things incrementally to protect the community, really, and give us the advantage of first mover advantage on the code after it's open source. So that's my contribution for the week, in addition to funding a team of 10 to 12 people, depending on how you count.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, I guess I'll propose Jay, since you're top left of my screen.
Sounds great. It's great to see everybody. I'm very happy to be here. I guess I would start with, if I had a vote immediately, I would vote to approve and implement the logo. I love it. I think it's it intersects with about as many different intersections as I can think of. It's pleasing to the eye. It's short. It's sweet. It's powerful. I think it's brandable, arguably, especially if we have a tagline and a name that's uniquely identifiable. I'm thinking in terms of trademarking a logo for a Fractally Genesis group, and I think that could be worked through, at least in light of the U.S. Trademarking office. And so I'm excited about that. I give it 2 thumbs up. I hope we get it. I hope we get it across the finish line as soon as possible. I would love to roll with it. So my investment, I've been lagging at the bottom with 3s and 2s and 1s these past several weeks, which it's interesting because as an experiment, I'm perfectly content with that, especially because, as Dan just mentioned, first, user advantages that arise from the Genesis Fractally. I see, because of my excitement about the future of this project. I'm very thrilled to be a part of it, even though it could be a 12 months investment of intensive time, which I have a perfect attendance record. I'm now a member of the Eden fractal experiment, which is obviously could help build the snowball network effect for fractally in general, including the Genesis fractally group. And so I would say an estimate, I'm a full-time practicing attorney, but I'm also investing a large number of hours into what I would call the Fractally project. And I would say I spent around easily 10, possibly 15 hours in what I would fairly describe as fractally related organizational framework structuring participation on my part. And that's it.
Thank you, Jay. Who would you propose go next?
Because I'm a big fan now, I would like Thomas to, he's the logo designer, correct? Thomas, go for it. And by the way, I can't, your work should be highly praised, and I give it my highest praise. So good job, Thomas, go for it.
Oh, thanks. It's always helps to have a great client like Dan, who, when I'm working, he seems to be able to see like a designer sees. I don't know how he does it, but it's amazing to work with him. Okay, so the past week I worked on the logo with Dan, of course, and I also probably a good 40 hours, a little less than normal. I was battling COVID, which I'm winning, and I worked a lot and completed the consensus forming process for the UX, so it will work on a mobile device. So with all the video screens and being able to move things around, that's been worked out, and I've been working closely with our friend and team members, Brandon, and I've been working with Val and a lot of the other team members to confirm that all of the right features and everything are in place, so they can start implementing that next week, which I'm very, very excited to see move forward.
This work that they've put together is really exciting. I wish I could just expand on it all right now, but since we don't have much time. But I do want to say that the mobile interface and the UI that we have for doing these meetings is boiled down, made really, really simple. And it's a hard thing to do because there's so much information that you want to put on the screen, and there's so many moving parts. But we boil it down to something that's almost like a one-button mouse type simplicity, which should make it appealing to as many people as possible, even on a mobile phone where you don't have text entry, you don't have all these things that are easy to do, and you don't have a lot of space to have lots of details. We'll be demoing that workflow in the near future.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. As you can see, Dan is excited about it too, and consolidating all of Dan's thinking into a front-end interface is quite an amazing thing to finally achieve. So yeah, that's what I'm working on this week, and nothing else to add. I will hand off to Patrick. He's next on my screen.
Thank you. Hello, guys. Very excited with the announcement of Daniel Larimer a couple of minutes before this meeting, but that was I was able to digest for the first time, but I have still to digest. So my contribution this week, I have just put a link into the video description, into the chat description here. So what I have made since June 5th until June 11, I have done an Eden Fractal interview with Dancing Joy and Felix Ruiz. I have, that was on the last Sunday. On Monday, we have made the Fractally brainstorming session, as always, with Jesse Jaffe. He was making an announcement that he will stop and join later on. That's fine. So we continue to do the Fractally brainstorming session on this next Monday with Dancing Joy, Duan Philippi, and others. I have begun a MindWeb Edu short AI multi-language MP3. So the goal is to make a very short, cool audio message, educative, and that's part of MindWeb. I am continuing to developing the MindWeb SRT tool. So basically, take a SRT file from a YouTube video, and then when the English is fine, use this SRT file to create any kind of other files. That could be for the video YouTube description, or that could be for the subtitle, next subtitle, or transcription. That could be for a lot of things. Also, I was experiencing with MindWeb to recognize hidden EOS account and to link that with the Anchor link by Gremas. So I am continuing to integrate authentication of hidden EOS members with the mindweb.io website in order to recognize them and put a special color for those hidden members when they create a mind map. I have created also a new mind map, Hidden Fractal, for the group, Hidden Fractal, and a promotional video for Hidden Fractal, and also a by-wire article. And now I have begun a new category into the website here, MindWeb Fractal Links, where you have all the, not all, but for the moment, a part of the links that I want to share, included the Genesis Fractal Branding and Interim Group Consensus process proposed by Daniel Larimer here. So, and also very important, the Fractal Contributor Agreement that we have agreeing, just a reminder that we have agreeing to the Genesis Fractal by signing this agreement, but also on any blockchains related to this Genesis Fractal, because I think it's very important to remind, because a lot of people have signed this agreement without to know exactly what they have signed. By stating that, I think it's correct to say, because sometimes we sign something without to know exactly what we sign. So it's good to remind, and it's not frozen in the stone. So that's what I have made. And yeah, so I will give the mic to my dear Lenny.
All right, thanks, Patrick. I posted a summary on chat as recommended in our papers where we read normally. Some of you have been hearing a number of times me complaining, but I'm tied up in different contracts, which ended yesterday, so I'm a happy man today. But still, not much work spent for Fractally. I spent maybe 5-6 hours over the last 2 days because I covered 2 recaps, Sunday and then earlier today, which I think is in development. I haven't had time to really develop these, but it will come in future, which is a different story. Beside that, no invites. Rank last meeting, number 1, voluntarily, because I simply didn't do nothing for Fractally a week back. Similar, but 5-6 hours put in the last 7 days. Thank you. That's all from me, and I pass it on then to Dan.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Lenny, and thanks so much, everybody. It's awesome to hear all the amazing contributions. And yeah, so this week I focused a lot on the Eden Fractal with Patrick and Jay and a bunch of other great Eden members doing awesome stuff. So we've been building this. You can check it out at edenfractal.com, and we're meeting every Wednesday at 13 UTC. There's more details here you can check out. There's a bunch of just quick things I'll show you. I started to put together some artwork to share like a presentation for that, to kind of, because Josh said that he wasn't sure if he wanted to do it, and so I feel like because we have some different mechanisms, we can have some good presentations so everybody can be clear about how to do it. And I kind of helped co-host that. Patrick made a great tweet that I retweeted, and I was also working with Patrick on some of the promotion for the Eden Fractal. So we met on Wednesday. It was a big success. It was super helpful and exciting and amazing. There was about 15 attendees and 12 people who participated, so you can see it. I recorded. James Mark put this up here as well, where you can watch how it went. And yeah, it was really good, really exciting. So here are the people who participated, because we're using Eden, and we have the amazing design of the Eden UI, which I think that Thomas had a big role in, and also in the logo, which I'm like eternally grateful for you for making the design and so forth. I think you made the logo at least, and a lot of the design. So thank you so much, and It works well for this. Yeah. So those are the people who attend. A bunch of amazing contributors. I've also been working with the logo and stuff and making some designs, remixing it. The goal of these events was basically use the fractally process to help Eden and to help EOS and also have fun. And then in addition to the respect, we're counting for respect, but also people can earn EOS. So all participants earn EOS according to the Fibonacci ratio. I'm giving away 100 EOS a week for a few weeks that I raised from Pomelo and so forth. And during the meeting, Patrick also announced that he would donate 500 EOS as well, which is super helpful. Thank you so much, Patrick. So that'll give us some runway, and so we account to respect. And also Chuck McDonald gave NFTs for Eden. He's also been making really cool art with Eden on EOS NFTs. And then I also worked a bit with Vlad, who's a developer, who's been designing an interface for it and has some different mock-ups here that I figured I'd show you real quick. They look really cool. And then I also worked a bit with James Mart, who developed some software or smart contracts basically to distribute the EOS and respect. And of course that's his work, but I just worked with him a bit and just talked about how to do it and stuff like that. And then it's like super exciting, and now people have respect, and you can see that on EOS. I put together this graphic to show how much people earned, which I think is a cool way to display it, and I'm planning to use that as like a promotional material. There's also the proposal from a long time ago, and then I'll just wrap up these because apparently my tabs unloaded and I only have like 30 seconds left. So yeah, and then in addition to that, I also help promote Eden Fractal and other stuff related to fractal governance at the Biowire Town Hall. And then I also retweeted some of Patrick's great tweets, and I promoted it at the EOS Fireside Chat. And I had the interview with Patrick. Thank you so much, Patrick. And then I also promoted it on the EOS Hot Sauce this week. Sorry for the messy end of the presentation, but yeah, I promoted it at the end of the EOS Hot Sauce. And then I also retweeted Mark Shear's tweet about this event. So thank you for listening, and hope you enjoyed it and so forth.
Great.
Yeah, maybe.
So can I ask you some questions? I'm thrilled, by the way, to see the Eden Fractal occurring, the work that's gone on. I want to, James put that smart contract together. He's a member of our team, so I'm happy to see all that stuff occur and see fractal governance gaining traction. Another group of 12 people. It's inspiring to see people donating their money to reward people for contributing. That's huge, and I think it would be great to have mutual respect between the two fractals as we move forward. So thank you so much for making that happen, and it's nice to see people participating in multiple fractals and not choosing one or the other. I hope that everyone continues to support both, because the purpose of this fractal, the Genesis fractal, in my mind, is to spread the adoption of fractal governance to create many fractals. And it's funding this group, providing incentive. Any people that were new in that group that were not part of the Genesis fractal?
Yes. Yeah, so Chuck McDonald, I don't think he's participated in this fractal because he had an issue with the Hive account, and he's more into just supporting EOS, I think. So he participated, and he's also been advocating for it. He advocated for it during the 2 chief delegate calls this week, and he has really exciting plans to make NFTs that are linked with the Fibonacci, like embedded with EOS in there. So he's been helping a lot. And then Patrick and Jay, there's a couple other people too, right? There's Martin from .gems and EOS Nation.
Martin Breuer.
He's participated in a couple of these, I think, but he hasn't been to many because the time was better for him, being he lives in China.
We will collaborate with Chuck McDonald about the NFTs because he has a lot of experience with Bounty Block by Dimitri.
Yeah.
and he will collaborate with Chuck McDonald. So a collaboration was born during
Yeah,
this meeting.
That's awesome.
That was nice.
And then also Vlad too, and Vlad and Martin were talking about
Vlad.
about building things, and I don't think Vlad's been at any of these meetings either. And then there might have been like one or two other people. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Say 3, 2, 1, 0, and we vote.
rank 6. Just put a little spacer in there. 3, 2, 1, go.
I am the last one, as always.
Thank
I know,
you guys
Jay
so
was the
much.
last one. We
All
were
right.
biased, but that was obvious.
Rank 5. But don't post it yet. I'm still so many great contributions here. So can you put your name in the video, your Hive account?
Sure.
I'm gonna do the same for myself, but yeah, that's pretty easy.
Sorry, what do you want?
I think you have it already, Patrick.
Rename.
I have already posted, yeah. Okay, I repost again.
Oh, I was thinking like renaming yourself. Yeah. All right. Okay. I'm ready to go with the 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1, go. All right. All right, Thomas, it looks like you are being highly respected for your logo work this week. I also think that Thomas is a great pick.
Sorry, I have not respect Thomas. I changed my vote. Thomas.
The only reason I didn't go with Thomas this week was because he was largely sick for most of the week. But that said, he does get props because despite being sick, he worked and produced great stuff. So, yeah, so I can support Thomas for being 5. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you.
All right. So, rank 4. 3, 2, 1, go. All right. I'm guessing that Dan means Singjoy.
Patrick's ready for you again, Dan.
Looks like we have agreement there. And then all right. Rank 3.
Oh man.
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay. I was not wrong.
So it seems like everyone else is Patrick for 3. I will go with that.
I should not vote for myself.
No, you can absolutely vote for yourself. If you believe your contributions are greater than others, please be objective. Don't feign false humility.
Don't be shame. Don't be shy. Okay.
If you think someone contributed more, be honest about it. Don't always put yourself first, but be honest either way, best you can.
Absolutely.
All right. So rank 3 goes to Patrick. And then now we're at rank 2. 3, 2, 1, go.
Interesting. Interesting.
We're split 50-50. Is that what I'm reading?
I guess we have to go again.
Dan, you
Okay.
maintain your decision
Which Chinese?
I
between Lenny and Jay. You
I'll let
think,
Jay speak for himself first.
Yeah, we can allow them to align either way.
No, but you have the right to change. It's not frozen in the stone, huh?
Yeah, this is not. It's not. So
I love
basically,
that Lenny-
each of you can make your case for who you think it should be, and then we can.
I would suggest let Jay speak, and I get a
Yes.
small speak.
Okay, I
idea.
think that Lenny just made a perfect decision. He knew I'm both an advocate and voted for him and asked me to speak on his behalf. So and I love the and against my own self. And I'm happy to take that. Thank you, Lenny, for appointing me to be your advocate. I vote for Lenny because he's a pillar in the community. He's somebody that we need. And one of the suggestions that Dan Larimer made, and how do we create our rankings each week? And one of the things is that you can take who it is, if you know the person and his contributions over time, and realize the value of what he brings, almost like is this a person as one of the pillars in the community, as somebody that we can't live without? And that's why I say yes to that. And so I vote, especially for today. He's just off working his butt off for the last project that he had, and he still is maintaining loyalty to the group and making his contributions and his summaries. I think that Lenny should be voted for by landslide. Thanks.
May I just add, but I do agree with Jay completely, but I also must say, Jay is offering a lot, sometimes too much, but yes, he offering a lot of thought into different areas and different ways, and in a very productive manner, which sometimes overspills the bucket a bit, and meet reactions. Jay knows that very well, so that's not an issue. But I do feel that what I am doing, and in all the honesty, now I finally finished that work contract, so I can show a bit more of what I intend to do in Fractally and Eden primarily. Fractally is still developing its way. We'll see what happens. So I do feel that I do deserve a bit higher this week compared to Jay. Thanks.
Since Jay and Lenny are in agreement, I'm going to side with their agreement over my judgment, because they both know their contributions and each other's. They're in a better position to judge that. So Lenny is number 2, and Jay, you're number 1. So even when you're last, you're first.
Sad that I cannot be the both on the same, because
well, we have to. The purpose is
forget
to
my rima. That makes no sense. But,
do our best, because we know one thing we do know is that no two
it's
people
more
are
emotional,
equal.
but emotional here we need to put that aside. We have to be objective. That makes no sense what I said.
From an objective perspective, we know that we're measuring instruments. We know that it's statistically impossible that two people are exactly equal, right? So we know that there's got to be some kind of difference. And so the only thing we've ruled out is that they can be equal, which kind of forces us into one of the two things that are more likely. One is higher than the other. In this case, great contributions all around everybody. I think Jay brings fabulous legal experience and advice,
Yes.
and attorneys are their time is just very valuable, opportunity cost wise, and considering all the legal considerations here, I think it's great to have that kind of legal contributions to the community. The time he's put in was substantial. My ranking was based purely on the relative hours that both of them mentioned, and more than anything else. And that's just very short term. Longer term, Lenny's been making huge commitments over the long term. I know Jay's also been doing stuff. He's never missed a meeting, right? So both of them have been contributing forever. So it was a really hard call for me. So I'm happy to go with their consensus on this, which means we've now got 4 out of 6. Yeah.
So how are you today, Lenny? Not too bad? It's okay?
Oh yeah, I'm good.
Not too
No
bad.
worries. I'm free of my work contract 7 months now. Yesterday, sorry, have to. Yeah.
Nice.
Congrats.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's a yeah, baby. Okay.
thanks to the two of you for your long-term contributions. I mean, I've
Absolutely.
seen
The
you guys talk a
recaps
lot.
now, fractally recaps.
Contributions
Nice.
amazing.
Yes.
Agreed.
And consistent week after week, not just for one day. I love it.
Be careful,
Just
be careful. I
correct me
might
if
call
I'm-
on help from some of you guys to get this going in the proper manner it's supposed to be, but we're getting there. You will hear from me.
Yes.
Cool. Looking forward to it. And yeah, thanks so much, both Jay and Lenny, as well as everybody too. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jay.
So much.
You are
Yes.
Lenny, a while ago you were mentioning that you said that you were sharing more equal animals and within your community, and I haven't spoken with you in a while. I'd love to hear an update from you on that.
Well,
Real quick
very
before we
short.
do that,
Come
sorry.
Daniel, I want to hear that as well, but I want to make sure that we all get the
Oh yeah, we got to submit.
post.
Sorry. Good
Gotta
to
get the post.
It's not the
Done.
Hive account that you post that.
You have a link to the Hive link, Hive post?
The real Hive account name are not that.
No, the Hive
Oh,
post.
maybe it's just for mine.
Yeah, it's up there at 11:11.
Sorry.
Joshua published it.
Maybe just for me. Yeah. Thomas
Okay.
Green, it's your Hive account, yeah. That's correct. Dancing Joy, it's your Hive account. And Mike Lenny, it's correct. J. Taylor Node. So just for me, Nova Crypto LLC. Otherwise, I will not have my respect.
Oh, you want to change the account name that you use for yourself, Nova Crypto LLC.
Yeah, Nova Crypto LLC. That was always that. Oh, and the blog post. Yeah.
Got it.
Not easy.
Okay, so just to confirm, this is what I'm going to post.
Yes, correct. Totally correct.
All right. 3, 2, 1, post.
And I have a blog post. Okay. You see, Dance Enjoy, on the bottom of this Zoom breakout room, it's written, quit this room, quitter la salle, quit this room.
I'm not sure
this
you're talking
room.
about create this room.
There is a button, blue button, to me into my Zoom stating, quit this room.
Oh, it says leave room in the bottom right for me.
The room, sorry.
Okay.
But on the hidden fractal on Wednesday, there was two buttons, one to quit the entire meeting and one to quit the room. So if someone click wrong, he could quit the entire meeting.
I'm guessing maybe that's because you're assigned to co-host, and the co-host has that option. I'm not sure if that was.
I hope so.
Okay.
Hope so. Otherwise, the other one could quit the entire meeting. That would be a shame.
Yes, that would. Thanks for
I was
letting me know
co-host
that. And...
on Wednesday. I was co-host. Yeah, on Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
Possible. Yeah.
Okay.
Give me a chance.
I'm not sure. I just
give me a
stating
chance
that.
to update Thomas. I'm one of the candidates for the Swedish Parliament 3 months ahead. I don't expect to get in, but I'm working with Affluent Democracy Party here. That was number 3 outside of our parliament. We have a 4% limit. And the party that I'm working with will really start to get going for the 2026 elections. And they are now willing to start look at doing fractal democracy and fractal structure and similar. So, it's working. This is where I'm focusing my work. Fractal is only a part sideline, So, Thomas, I'll keep you updated.
Thank you, Lenny. That's really exciting to hear, actually. Cool.
Yeah, sounds super
Jay,
exciting.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right. Since I'm going to have to make some decisions after this call, any feedback from me with respect to the logo and the process for approving the logo.
Yes, I have already one.
What?
The logo is fantastic. The question was also if it would be possible to have that in SVG or vector format, but I think it should not be a problem. Now about the new ID for the interim when you have reached. I state with my board, okay? I am not the document front of the eyes. What you want indeed is if we reach 6 consensus, six respect, more than a week, or 5 and 4, no, 6 and 5 maybe, we could do a proposal to change something into the fractally process. That's right. That's that, or it's other proposal. Has to be a proposal to change the fractally process, or has to be other proposal. Are you open to other proposals?
Yeah, I'm open to any proposals.
Okay.
And
Okay.
anyone who's ranked 5 or 6,
Okay.
can
So
do
now,
that. And anyone who can, you can talk to anyone who's ranked 5 or 6.
Okay.
Well,
So now
we'll
my
gather some
cons-
stats on it, and we might relax the restriction there.
You said into the title that to not need a Kuhn seal, but if you take only into account the 6 or 5, they could form like a conceal indeed.
But it's new every week. It's new every week.
It's every week. Oh, okay, every week.
So we're not like getting people to permanent things where this is the business for the day. It's going to factor in everyone's opinion. So the primary business is
that's very.
Do we want to adopt this as a logo? Do you want to postpone it to give people more time to think about it? We got obviously Thomas and I designed it. We've had lots of time to think about it. But any objections to the logo? Let's deal with that first.
So I have a question.
So you do your proposal. You are 6. You do your proposal into this week.
Hey,
and
Patrick. Sorry, since we don't have much time here, I'd like to kind of hear from Jay and Lenny and Dan, and then we can come back to you.
Okay, so my opinion is I think the logo is foundational. I'd love to. I approve whatever process can get it through quickest. But I'm not saying that from just an emotional point. I think that this is an experiment. My question is concerning the licensing of the logo to Genesis Fractally. I think that piece of our jigsaw puzzle right now is worth more attention to our design architecture of the operation of this new chain that's being built, because I think the payment of royalties for use of intellectual property on chain is something that's such a large market share of the future for human beings to cooperate to each other and respect each other through the payment of royalties by licensing agreements and smart contracts that address
voluntarily recognition.
I would love to see that part of this design and architecture to be fleshed out for the Genesis Fractally team so that we can see how can we implement the payment of royalties into the future. I think that's huge, and to me that's more important than the logo. But that's my thoughts. Thanks.
All right. Well, I look forward to hearing additional proposals from you in the future. For the time being, the logo is copyright Fractally LLC because somebody has to own it, but we're making it available for the community to use without restrictions from a trademark perspective. So that's.
But Dan, let me ask a follow-up question. Can't we put the Fractally LLC's team ownership of copyright and turn that payment of a licensing fee into a smart contract on chain that says, enter a smart contract,
we can do all kinds of things with licensing. I'm trying to focus this more on just like the pressing matters in the 5 minutes that we have, because I think that's a much longer discussion, and there's a lot of legal ramifications about bridging the real world to the virtual consensus world that we're dealing with, and how to deal with custodians of copyrights and ownership versus public domain, and all kinds of different things that we have to consider there. I don't want to get into that right now. Dan Singjoy? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so first off, thanks so much for making this article. And I think that, one, I love the logo and I love all the ideas around it and like the metaphors and the go and the infinity. And I think it's also very helpful to define that process. I was also thinking that that might be helpful with the Eden fractal too, because a lot of decisions that the Eden community might want to make. So this kind of process can be very helpful for like fledgling and early fractals. So thank you, and I suppose I'm looking forward to learning more if the idea evolves more. But I think that the process is a great process right now. I have some questions that I guess we probably don't have time to get into, like just regarding.
We can ask questions in the follow-up meeting after this.
Okay.
We can ask questions for everyone to consider. I'm really just trying to gauge your opinion right now, so that I can try to represent this group as best I can.
Okay, sounds good.
Of course, you can also speak up in the other group as well. Lenny?
Cool.
Yeah, well, I kind of expressed it already earlier, but I'm in favor of all what you put in there, and it's a good logo. I like it. I had some questions about, proposal way, who allows to be proposing, but you dispelled my views there that, hey, anyone can pass it through, but one who with a seniority, which is quite acceptable. Not 100%, but quite acceptable. Because the thing is, we've got talent all through, but not everyone is sticking out. Myself, I've been numbered number 221 the last 3 sessions. I do consider them much higher value, but because of circumstances, I did not. So, there are a lot of variables to keep in mind. Thanks.
Yeah. All right.
I just want to thank you all into this breakout room because I have to go. I have some other things to do, but I will watch the recording maybe of Dan. You do always a recording, and I will see the answer of Daniel Larimer and the talk and all to my best understanding. So thank you to everyone here, and see you soon.
All right.
Sounds great.
Thank you, Simon.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Patrick.
Thank you, Dan. The both Dan. Thank you, everyone. Okay.
So,
I will
any other direct feedback for me? Things that you guys think I could do better in the 2 minutes that are remaining? I know that's not much time.
I suppose if maybe you could just finish the Fractally app by this week, then that might be helpful. Might be appreciated. No, I'm just joking.
I know I'm trying to boil the ocean with the number of things I'm trying to do all at once, but I think that this manual process is working so well. I know we all want things to be on chain and tradable and everything else, but we are still learning so much. I think it's more about the people than the technology. And so I'm taking a little bit more time to get the technology right, so that when we have a foundation to really, really grow, rather than rushing to get some minimal technological solution done. But I also appreciate the parallel work that James and the Eden fractal, they're rushing to get something on chain that's a little bit more tangible. And I think that's a great way to experiment with something. But there's a difference between proof of concept, it's working, and a foundation that can allow lots of communities to build and flourish with the ease of use and the bigger vision we have. So I want to call out that there's a need for both. Ideally, I do both, but I have to choose one or the other because I kind of can't divide the team and make forward progress on both without really hamstringing things. So I'm glad to see the community taking the initiative there to build interim solutions. But and you guys think that this manual process is effective in the interim?
Yeah. Are you speaking specifically at the manual process that you proposed in this article?
And what we've been doing for the past 3 months.
Oh, yeah, I think it's super helpful.
I think Lenny had one question for you, Dan.
Yeah. Got 50 seconds.
Not so much a question, but I'm the one who's normally pretty quiet and listens in on everything and give occasionally a view. And I just want to say one thing, Dan. You're doing a heck of a good job, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all feeling it, we're all knowing it. It's a lot of struggles ahead, but just keep on going. It's going well. Thank you.
Yeah, we are
Thank you
always
so
here.
much, Lenny. I know I know you've been a big supporter for a long time, and I don't always see all the stuff that everyone's doing because it's just so much. But I really appreciate everyone who's helping realize the vision of freedom, justice, and
10 seconds. I
Thank
love
you so
you,
much.
Lenny. I love you, Daniel Larimov.
Thanks so much,
I
everybody.
love
Great
you,
meeting
Dan
with you.
Joy. I love you.
Recording in progress.
Welcome back, everyone. Hope you guys had fun. I've just put the blog post. I'll post. You should be able to see it. Actually, I don't have to repost it, but I'll post it one more time. Today's blog post for your comments if you don't have that link already. And before we went into the breakout rooms, or as we were going in, I did submit the proposal from Dan. So we're going to run through this process that was proposed, I think, because it's the first proposal to propose the process.
You got to start sometime, right? No time like the present. One of the things that stood out in my mind as I was thinking about things this week is how do you reach consensus on how to reach consensus on how to reach consensus, right? It's a meta, turtles all the way down. You just got to do it and hope people start following. So we're going to go ahead and do it. Not that I am decreeing anything, but just because by virtue of everyone's on board with doing it, it's de facto consensus. And then we can use this process to determine whether or not we actually have consensus and using this process going forward. So we can do it today to approve the process of reaching consensus and to discuss logo adoption. And keep in mind, if we approve the logo today, that doesn't mean that we can't take proposals to change the logo. We're not stuck with one logo forever. You know, Apple had their first logo and then they evolved over time. Steam had one logo and evolved over time. And even EOS has had a logo that has changed in various ways. So don't think that we are locked into anything, but having something is better than nothing in the interim. So those are my thoughts there. So let's go ahead and have everyone who ranks 6 in this meeting. Can you raise your hand just so you can be at the top of the thing? All right, so I'm also ranked 6. I guess I need to figure out how to raise my hand. I'm embarrassed. I've never actually had to raise my hand before.
You just go to reactions and there's a button in there.
Raise hand. Okay, there we go. All right. So this is the rank 6 group. I'm just going to go through and since we're just making this process up as we're going. First thing, is there anyone who's not in the top 6 who has any questions or concerns that you'd like us to consider about this before we deliberate? Jason.
Yeah, I think a choice about a logo would be far more beneficial and full if it had numerous choices. So I would prefer to see more choices rather than we have this thing, do we want this thing? I'd rather see, we have these 2 things, these 3 things, these 4 things, and then which of those is the best? I think that would produce a better logo overall, to see more competition. That's the opinion I got.
That's a really good point. Obviously, you just go with the first thing you see. You don't know what your opportunity costs are. So exactly. I think this logo is meant as a proposal for things. The one thing I would like to say for deliberative bodies and even things like dispute resolution, I don't want this group having free will to write anything they want. I would like them to have to make a binary choice, up or down. And so if we do have multiple logo submissions, then each submission would be, I guess, a separate proposal that would be accepted or rejected. and rather than
That
asking
could
the
go
group
something
to-
like the groups, right? Each
Yeah.
person, each group says yes or no, and then finally you get the second level of yes or no's, and then the third level of yes or no's, and then et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So we can. I can support giving a time period for the community to submit alternatives, and that would mean that a reject the logo for now, not a reject forever, would be a way of expressing, giving the community more time to digest and circulate and think about it. Also giving Thomas more time to refine the concept with community feedback and to have other people riff on the concept. Obviously, this was introduced an hour before this meeting, so clearly not setting the precedent of making a decision within 2 hours of introducing a new process is probably a good decision to make, but we can still use the process to make the decision to delay. Valentine, you have a question?
No.
I have a question. Couldn't we technically, hypothetically, we could approve this logo and then another logo to replace it could be proposed and that proposal could be accepted or rejected?
We can also do that. That is what are the ramifications of having one and then changing? Okay, so if you, for this next week, this is the logo. Even if it changes next week, at least we know that, hey, this is what we're going with until something better comes along. Don't get too tied to a logo until it's stuck around for a while, but that way it's kind of decided over time, because the over time is also the other factor of things for measuring consensus versus one-time decisions. So we could say it's approved unless it gets changed next week. Valentine, your hand is still up, right? Unless you are a top one. You have a question?
Should I be a top one in this meeting or just over last three meetings? What is?
Did you rank 6 this week?
No, I didn't rank 6.
Okay,
So
unless you have a question, lower your hand, please. All right.
Question, or I have a recommendation. Consider a quick turn vote without all the mass as a valid approach toward reaching consensus. I don't believe we need to sandbag ourselves necessarily according to some unwritten rule. Just a disambiguated note for consideration.
Sorry, say that again.
I recommend we consider a quick turn mass-free vote within 2 hours of this proposal being presented without necessarily sandbagging ourselves according to an unwritten rule.
Okay, I'm not sure what you mean by sandbagging, but yes.
Yeah, there's no need to push this out. It goes a little bit more toward what Josh was saying. Like, we could use the flexibility of a quick turn vote on something as simple as, yeah, go with this logo. And by the way, we can revote to undo what we did without unnecessary weight holding us for what consideration across this week. Okay, sure, but I don't think that's necessary or something that's immutable, a part of a consensus.
Okay, so each of us can take a turn to express our opinions on it. I'm going to say that I obviously like the logo. I helped design it and conceive of it, and so I'm going to go ahead and propose we accept it for now. My team, my group that I was part of, largely accepted it, and the process that we're using here. There was pretty much universal support for it. So I'm going to go ahead and say that's what my group was saying. Felix, since you're at top, you're muted. Can't hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll vote to also accept the logo. The group that I was in, we didn't have anyone really. No one was against it, and so I made sure I think also we all kind of know, but like I think whoever gets ranked 6, we had a discussion. Basically, we all reached that consensus, but also taking notes. If anyone was completely opposed, that we would just make sure to bring that up, but nobody was. And so, yeah, I like that we're we're forming this new way of driving forward with a community consensus. But my vote is to go with it.
Thank you. Cruz?
Yes. Oh, well, I just raised my hand because I was ranked 6.
All right. Well, you're part of the consensus building process on this this motion. You have any feedback on your group's opinion, and how do you cast your vote?
Sorry, Don, I just dropped out. The question is, I was part of the consensus. I ranked 6. What was it?
How did your group feel about the logo?
I don't know. We didn't discuss that. We didn't have time. We only had time to reach the consensus, and it was amazing. I would say, just every time, every week, I go into a new group, and every time it's a surprise. And this time it was different, and it was a lot of fun, and we did it. And I love the logo. It's amazing. I think it's what I wanted to have. And I'm really glad that you posted it today, and I didn't make t-shirts this week. I wanted to, but the official logo, I was ready to do it. I found a company and all that. Now I can do it. My question is, can we put a link under the logo? Because I want it to be not just, go, but to be something like a slogan or a URL, something like a call to action. But
anyone is free within the community to use this. This is something that is up for us to decide as a community. So I would say that if we want to have any restrictions on what to do with the logo, we can agree on that in future proposals. But for now, it's free to use for anyone to create t-shirts, to put links, do anything they want until the community decides to put some kind of restrictions on official use of the logo.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So I think it'd be good to have gofractally.com, for example, underneath.
Yes. I'll try to do that. Maybe it will go, I'll go through iteration and see what actually works, so people can notice it and say, like, what is it? Why are you wearing that t-shirt? And join, and ask question and start joining. And on behalf of the group, I might say it's great work. I love it. It looks beautiful. It is smart. It has meaning in it. And most things you do. Then thank you, team. Thank you, Fractally. I vote for it.
All right, thank you, Matt.
My team, we did not discuss the logo, so I'm left to try to discern what I think. Advocating for them. I guess the only thing I have to go on is that in a pre-meeting, I did weigh in with an opinion, and no one pushed back on that during my meeting. So I'm pro logo. I think something is better than nothing. Better is the enemy of good enough is one of my guiding principles. And we'll be held to account. I mean, one of the exciting things about the 6 of us sort of advocating for our groups and trying to do what we think is in the best interest of Genesis is if next week people don't like the logo, we'll be held to account, which we should be. And that would be exciting to see if that plays out. So I'll take the risk and promote yes on going forward with the logo.
All right, thank you, Matt. Mark.
Yeah, a similar story. We did not discuss it in our room. We had an abundant dialogue based on probably a strong 4 to 6 different subjects, and I come out here representing unexpectedly as I missed it. Otherwise, we would have made room for that, say, 6th or 7th subject. And having said that, as 6 this week, I am 100% for go on the new logo. And I'm also reaching out to 2 of my teammates on the back end to see if they're okay with it, because those 2 were in my room, but that's really not a part of this architecture. It was really needed. The real data's in, and that is this on the fly, failed in a few minor ways, but architecturally, I'd say it's a huge success, because here we are filling those gaps in with all the redundancy necessary. So my vote is up, and love the logo. And I also love this process that I'm currently participating in this very moment of bringing dialogue and consensus.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, Eric.
We actually had lots of discussion, and we like the logo. We like that it says go. We like that it's consistent with the overall logo. And I have about 3 decades of marketing, so I've done lots of logos. But we didn't see a need to have a logo over the next week. And the way we've normally done logo and marketing is you have a bunch of people propose, if anybody does logos, you pick the rest of the ones. And then there's something that's kind of missing here that we haven't talked about, is a lot of times we say, can we take this from logo A and put it on logo B? So we didn't really see how to address that. So our opinion is we like it. We'd be happy if it was there. We think, though, that people should have the opportunity to propose other logos, to put them up. We think a week is enough time to put those up there. So while we'd be happy with it going in, we say, no, let's wait a week and see if anybody has anything else where we can either say, oh, we like that better. Why don't we take, one from column A and add that to column B and do another logo. So unless there is a burning desire to have a logo over the next week, and we'd be happy for people to use that logo for a week, we say, let's wait a week. We're voting no.
Yeah. So basic advice, I would say that this motion passes for now. Don't create any t-shirts with it until we see what happens over the next couple of weeks, because there might be other motions to change it and enhance it. And we should let it season a little bit. And I think that time is a critical element of any consensus process. Normally we would have, the council would approve it and it'd have 3 days during which the team leaders can be changed and swap it out. So I'd say that it passes now as, unless something better comes along in the next week that causes us to change it. It's got some momentum. We're not going to, I think, bias against changing it in the future. That seems to be the general consensus of the people. Thank you, everyone. I think we've just successfully. Devin, do you have a question, Mark?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, is there a point of contact we can reach out after 7 days and give a go, no go, yay?
Next week at this meeting, if there's a proposal, we'll mention it ahead of time. And I think what we can do then is someone can put forward a proposal to make it a little bit more binding. And they can also have proposals for alternative ones. So that's just something we can do for next week. The main purpose of this exercise today was to demonstrate a process for reaching consensus that we can replicate week after week as different items come up. And I'm sure that there's lots of things to discuss, times, additional bylaws, mission, what things we're valuing, what things we're not valuing, dispute resolution, all kinds of matters. And we need practice, right? Until we practice it, we see what works and what doesn't work. So I considered like this was a practice round. We reached a conclusion that most people generally support the direction of a logo. They like it. Now we just have to season it, sleep on it. Obviously, making decisions without sleeping on it is generally a bad idea. And since I don't think most people were sleeping during the meeting today, no one's really slept on it. So let's sleep on it, and we'll see what next week's rank 6 people decide to do. But thank you guys so much. I think you can reach out to Thomas for SVGs if you want to riff on the current version. I'm sure we'll probably submit a refinement to what we submitted today next week. So this is just a yes, we're okay with the direction of the logo. And I think we'll probably get a little bit better at making the proposals a little bit more formal, like what is specifically being decided versus not decided, and what it actually means. And so we'll refine that process going forward, because this is kind of ambiguous. What does it mean for us to approve a logo? What is, that's a whole different thing. But we've generally determined we like it and we think it's fun. but obviously we have logo designers with lots of experience on board. I'd love to hear what they have to say. So, all right, if there were no other proposals, so I'm going to go ahead and end the. Oh, we have to go respond with accept or reject on Hive. So
one more piece about that. There, as proposed, there's two pieces. We've talked about the logo, but we haven't talked about the process. Do we want to vote separately on that?
Yeah, since it's one proposal, we'd have to accept it or reject it as a whole. So we agree on the logo part of it. Do we agree on the process? We just exercised the process, but do you agree to use this process for next week?
Yes, for me.
Yes, for me. Anyone disagree? Let me just phrase that way. All right. So I think we can all approve the proposal in its entirety, logo and all. And we'll use this process next week with a more defined proposal that identifies specifically what the logo is, if there's any restrictions on the logo, who's going to own the copyrights. And that's one of the things that Jay was mentioning in my group. How do we deal with intellectual property, trademarks, and copyright when we have an organization that doesn't have a legal entity? And what's the relationship between that person and this group? What happens if that person leaves this group? Or, those are all things. And do we want to just make it public domain, which gives us no protection as a group, but also protects us from one person going rogue with it? So there's a number of things to be considered around the legal title to it. For now, it's copyright, fractally, license to use, and explore for anyone that's part of our fractal community. But I'd like to work with Jay and others to propose a process for managing real world assets, which are not something that a fractal can own directly. A fractal being just the consensus opinion of a group of people. And so that's, we're breaking new ground here as we try to solve these problems. And I thank everyone for the willingness to experiment and to deal with the messiness of discovery and innovation. We learn something every week and we learn from our mistakes. So let's not be too afraid to do things. Just boldly go and be willing to fail and recover rather than frozen, unwilling to try new things. So thank you so much. It's a pleasure. So I'm going to go ahead and respond with accept to Joshua's proposal. And if it actually only passes once, how many people? We had 5 or 6 of us.
6.
So once 4 of us, like, say accept, then it will officially pass.
I think it's 6. There was a question. So for future proposals, like if somebody came up with something, let's say Tuesday this week, would they comment on this week's blog post if they wanted to make a proposal, or would it be the next week's blog post, which we generally do? Right,
I would recommend posting on Hive and or gofractally.com or both, and do so as soon as you have your ideas. Then on the day of the meeting, show up to the pre-meeting. That would probably be the first thing, so that you can have a little bit of pre-discussion. As soon as you post the agenda post for that Saturday, Josh, then you would submit your proposal at that time, and we would consider only the items that are submitted as comments there. We would then go through each of those at the start of before the breakout room, so that everyone's aware these proposals have been submitted. And then I do want the primary order of business in the weekly meetings to be ranking individuals, and only if there's time left over to discuss the proposals. You should be picking people based on their contributions, the people who make the most valuable contributions, have actually already given the most. They've got the most skin in the game to make decisions. So whether or not you actually discuss things as a group is secondary. It's nice to have because, you know, as a leader contributing to the group, you want to make sure everyone's heard and the information they bring is integrated into your opinion and then filtered up to the whole group. But it's primarily about ranking your contributions, and then, you know, some weeks it's down to the wire, right? You don't think you're going to get submitted in time. Other weeks you got 20 minutes left over. So if you have spare time, then go ahead and discuss the proposals. And if not, then you're just trusting the person you picked to be ranked 6th to make good judgments on behalf of the fractal. Any other questions? Josh, you're muted.
Thanks. So we did get some votes, and I just want to remind everyone who voted that the process is to reply to the comment with either the word approve or the word reject. So there were some comments. There's actually only one that I see so far that says approve.
There's 2.
I'll go ahead and edit mine to say approve. Sorry, I made that mistake. Since this is a manual process, this is something that Joshua and or Gregory will start tracking the approved ones, and we just put that in the log of approved proposals. And some of the things that you can make contributions in the future is to summarize the current status of all proposals and whatnot. So that's just more work that you can contribute to help facilitate the consensus building process and earn respect. So we're creating more opportunities for people to contribute as we provide more framework and structure. So I'm going to lower my hand so that we can only see people that actually have questions from the top 6. Felix, do you have a question?
Yeah, I don't want to like take this off subject right away. So if we want to stay on this discussion, but basically I wanted to talk to the fractally team and this fractally community right now with some things that's going on with Eden. There's been a proposal to try to make this upcoming Wednesday like a transfer of keys over on Eden for the chief delegates. We're wanting to maybe try to make that a bigger event, and I think it would benefit a lot of if we have some, community members over here and help us come participate in the fractal over on Eden. Yeah, we're trying to still kind of figure out the things. I'm not sure if anyone's reached out to you, Dan, or the fractally team on that as far as the chief delegate side. I'm just reviewing the chief delegate meeting, and that was the proposal, was that to make June 15th, it's a significant day in history for the Magna Carta, and it falls in line with the Eden fractal. I think it'd be cool if we had some type of big fractal event, and we basically are this fractally Genesis community would come over and help support this new start of Eden fractal that we got going on over there as well, while also kind of doing this thing where every election for Eden we have this transfer of keys, and that's like a ceremony. So the transfer of the new from the old chief delegates to the new, and so it looks like if you've been reached out, I just wanted to kind of, publicly announce this. I'm going to put a link to the Discord group for anyone that's in here that would be interested. Basically, the Eden Fractal last week, we reached consensus that you don't have to be an Eden member to participate. And so in these Eden Fractals, and so, yeah, we encourage anyone here to come over and help us over there. There's a lot of synergies between both communities. So.
Yeah, I'd like to address the Eden Fractal for a moment. First of all, I'm really grateful to see the adoption of fractal governance and the excitement and the innovation going on. They've created I think James from my team helped create a smart contract to record some of the stuff on the EOS blockchain to actually create some tokens and have them show up there. So that's that's helping spread the mission of the Genesis Fractal, which is to see widespread adoption of fractal governance in as many organizations as possible, to see the birth of as many fractal organizations as possible, so that all of humanity can benefit from the lessons that we are learning on how to cooperate and to make sure that we're actually governed of, by, and for the people, and not based on what the leaders say the people think, right? So taking back our control. So it's great to see that initiative with the Eden Fractal. I'm glad that there's experimentation going on with smart contracts on EOS. And one of the things that I'd like to say is that when this fractal matures, I think it's like a good opportunity for mutual respect between the two to support them. I know there's a lot of people, there's a lot of overlap, but there are new people that are brought into fractal governance through this other organization that's bigger than just the people here. So that's a huge win. I think we should encourage all these experiments. I would encourage you not to choose one or the other. Please keep participating in this fractal, and you can also support EOS. I do want to acknowledge that there are some members that actually funded and donated money. Some people have donated time, others have donated money to making this happen and to reward the people that are participating over there. And that's huge. That's a personal sacrifice for the promotion of fractal governance. So thank you for making that happen. I would like to address why isn't the fractal team just build something real quick on EOS and get all this done? Because that's something a lot of people want. They want something fast, tangible, and so forth. And I'd say the answer to that question, maybe you don't have it, but this one I guess people having, is I want to lay a foundation that is scalable long-term. And I don't want to create temporary solutions, right? It's one thing to build a house real quick. You cut down some trees, you build a tree house, and now you've got a shack in the woods. It's another thing to clear land, lay the foundation, get something that's going to stand for 100 years and can support lots of people and have all the experience. So we're doing slightly more to lay a better foundation for long-term growth. And eventually the Eden Fractal can adopt the work that we're doing here, or not. It's fine either way. But there's a difference qualitatively in what you can do quickly versus what you can do for the long-term success of a sustainable business, sustainable growth, user experience, and all that other stuff. So we got really big ambitions that we're up to, and we're laying that foundation. So that's the difference. So I'm really glad to see some people building different tools, like we've seen the websites that help teams reach consensus, and we learn from, are people using them or not? Why aren't they using them? I think we've gotten tremendous mileage out of just meeting here every single week. And so thank you for showing up. And I think it's working really, really well for the people that are showing up right now. It's a long-term commitment. And everyone here is working for tokens that are not fungible. They're not transferable right now. So it's a long-term. We're all staked in this long-term. And so that's, I think, simultaneously limiting some of the growth. Some people just want to pay day to day, and if they can't see it, then they don't participate. But the people who are participating have that long-term outset, and I think those are the people that need to be the core DNA for building this. So thank you, each and every one, for working with this process. And I think we're establishing a lot. We're learning how to do this at small scale. We're proving it can be done manually without advanced technology. And I think that's a huge thing to prove. Because one of the things I mentioned in my book is that technology is a centralizing component. The more technology you have, the more advanced your civilization needs to be. If you can only have one company that manufactures the chips that are able to run the software, they control you regardless of what your consensus process is, because they control the technological dependency. of what you're working on. This whole fractal could be disbanded right now, for example, if Zoom didn't exist and the internet went down. But the process that we're going through could work in small communities in the middle of Africa with no power. And we need to prove the process, because the process is what stands the test of time. The process is humans. It's humans coming together. It's humans working together. And the tools that we create are to facilitate and lubricate the underlying process. You have to remember that before computers existed, we had banking and we had money transfer and we had checks and we had all kinds of manual accounting that's been going on for thousands of years before we had computers to do automated accounting and all that. So we have the luxury of having Zoom. We have the luxury of having Excel spreadsheets and collaborative documents to keep things transparent. All that stuff exists and we're using it. But this is about more than just the technology. The technology will help accelerate, make it easier to adopt, formalize the processes, and remove some ambiguity. But it's this process that we're already doing that I think is the heart and soul of Fractally. So thank you everyone for coming here. Mark, you had a question?
Sorry about that. Nope, I don't.
All right, Felix, your hand is still up.
Yeah, sorry, I was gonna jump in really quick too, just to make some comments. I guess I brought it up in the breakout group that we had, but what's exciting too about the Eden Fractal is, I think the leadership is like for this Fractal Genesis, like there's a lot of trust in, there's a centralized part in the fact, like, the Fractally team, you guys are building the software and the community has formed around this because there's a sense in trust in, I guess you could say the centralized part of Fractally, but the centralized part is very open to decentralizing everything. But one thing I've noticed is a lot of people have comments on like, they're not here right now. They've kind of like left out of frustration because they come up with they're like, we should fix this, we should fix that. But the thing is, I like this, by starting another Fractal, we can innovate there. And that's where you can test those ideas. Here, you've put in a lot of thought. The Fractally team has put in a lot of deeper thought and time behind these systems to where you can't just change things and it could break the whole system. So I don't know, I guess the main reason I was wanting to bring that up is I feel like, this community probably knows, I don't want to call anybody out, but we have some members who basically every week have little things that they want to add their input on, and they want things changed just because they said it. And it's like, go and make that change yourself, get the community around you and do the changes, and then show the progress. What we're doing over here on Eden Fractal, we're going to be able to experiment. And then those experiments, what we learn, we can bring over to the Fractally, which is the core where the software is being built. And I mean, that's why I think it's got to be a little bit more, I guess it'll be a little less robust, because I mean, you guys have given a lot more thought. Your whole career, Dan, has been centered around these ideas. So to have kind of like a shallow opinion really quick of like, hey, we need to change this, or we should try this, like try it on your own space, experiment, and come and show the results. And I don't know, I just felt like I wanted to kind of put that out there because, I think this community here, obviously, we're all really strong. It's just we have our members that come in that's a little sour and like to be a little bit outspoken and just give out just all these ideas and just want their voice to be heard without putting in the effort. And so I love everyone here, and I just wanted to put that out there. So
yeah, thank you very much. I do try to listen to as much feedback from as many people as possible and have a discussion and entertain from people. At the end of the day, I'm trying to do something very, very specific and to lead with all my experience and integrate all feedback with my other experience and to try to explain it. So one of the elements that we're going to have to deal with in the future, and these are things that I'm thinking about in the background, and I've written a little bit about it in the past, is things like, every week we meet to rank the good people are doing. But if people can do good, people can also do harm. And so we need to be able to reach consensus on the tough things, right? How do we reach consensus when someone's actively working against us and to get restitution? That's, if you ignore that, which is what a lot of people in the crypto space like to do, that's kind of what happened with Steemit. And with Steemit, it started off with a very positive community. And then there are a couple of people that started using their voting power just because they mined a lot of weight early to vote for themselves, their friends, and vote down people that out of spite or whatnot. And that created a toxic environment. And the only people a lot of good people left, and the only people that stayed were the people that were willing to tolerate the toxic environment. So it had a lot of early momentum and then stalled. So the long-term success of any community means attracting the good people in and getting the bad people out, and doing so with justice, so it's not like Twitter, where it's just like, oh, you're banned or whatnot, where you have some kind of dictator or moderator that's got too much power, but where people can actually sense that there's a respectable process by which we reach consensus on what the proper restitution is for various things. And you need to have both sides of that. And that's a complicated issue. And we'll have to cross that in the future. But a community that can successfully get a justice system, as well as recognizing the positive contributions with a focus on restitution instead of retribution, of making people whole, of making the community whole. That's the goal, not to punish. The intention is to redeem people and bring people back, right? Because that's what causes communities to grow, not to kill and harm and get revenge, which is what causes communities to fall apart. And I mentioned the book Blueprint, the biological evolutionary basis for a good society. And in that book, they talk about the critical need for balance, and how sometimes even slapping someone in the face can help build a community instead of just driving people away. If it's geared toward just, hey, wake up. But yes, then there's restoration. But that's a complicated thing, and a lot of people in crypto say don't want to have any of that negative stuff because we see how it's abused, and it's easy for it to be abused. We see Twitter and Facebook and the government abusing that kind of stuff every single day. But without it, you also get abuse. And the abuse that you get is miscreants running the streets, burning stuff down without any consequences. And a civilized society makes sure that there's consequences for those who are burning stuff down and graffitiing the place. And having that balance is what's needed for a functional community, society, and it has to be fair and not to create a system of judges that end up ruling corruptly. And if you do that, you can create a city on a hill that's an example for the world, and people will trust that community. People will flood into it, and economic prosperity will flourish. If you allow corruption and gangsters to run amok, then that community will degrade and business will flee and you won't attract new users. So it's a critical component of a society and a community that wants to grow, is learning how to police its own with justice. And that's the opposite side of the coin to recognizing the positive contributions. It's getting restitution for the negative contributions. So that's some of the stuff that we'll have to discuss in the future and reach consensus on. Mark?
Hey, quick on that note, that's occurred to me a few times. Were you still thinking about working on a book to capture the second half, the enforcement piece that you're describing? You remember that about?
Yeah. I'll probably have to go another year or two before I have time to sit down and write the book. But we're learning stuff. I'll be writing blog posts. I'm getting experience with the existing legal system and integrating all that. But there's lots to explore here. There's lots of stuff that people explore to the ages, and we have new things to integrate. And I think we can really set the bar to create a community that people want to be in, where you know that your assets are protected from because the process is respectable. And I think that's the thing, that the process justifies the end. The end doesn't justify the means, right? The means justifies the end. The means must justify themselves. An interesting point, I'm just going to get a little philosophical here. I retweeted something from Vitalik this week about your real name is not the name that's on your passport, right? That's just your slave name or passport name or whatever the government, your name is who you choose to call yourself. And I thought that there's some truth to that, but it doesn't completely contain the entire message. Who you are is, we can all give you a name, and that's how we have consensus on who you are. And that's how everyone else knows you. You can request a community call you something, but that's also just a request because your name is a tool for them to keep track of you and your reputation. It's not something that you own, just like you don't own your reputation. You can't demand that everyone else wipe your slate clean and do all these things. It's a consensus building process. So I think your name is a consensus. Now you should have a strong opinion on it in a society that respects the opinion of the individual. There's a balance and a tension there, but I think that no government has the authority to name you, but likewise, no individual has authority to demand other people call them something. And it's a complicated thing, but I think if you consider a name just an attribute that you reach consensus on, whether just like your balance on your respect is an attribute that we're reaching consensus on. The point is that we agree so that we can actually talk about somebody and we all know who we're referring to, right? It's a tool for everyone to use to communicate versus, no matter what name people might give you, it doesn't change who your spirit and your body is. It doesn't change anything about you. It's just a description, a handle, if you will. And we all reach consensus on handles to facilitate things. That's what we're up to here, is how do we reach consensus on that? Because reaching consensus on names and reaching consensus on property rights, reaching consensus on royalty payments and intellectual property and all these other things, they're giant consensus problems. And when consensus process is corrupted, that's when you get tyranny, and when it represents the will of the people, and that's when you have freedom. So that's just some random thoughts on Vitalik's tweet there, and see, and how it relates to what we're doing here. All right. If there are no other questions, then I'm going to. Mark, you have another question?
Yeah, I just, on that note, wanted to say 2 weeks ago, Doug Wu brought up this good question. We brought it into our meeting and I put it in the chat about 2 or 3 questions up. But yeah, it was basically you spoke directly to that question of what the fractally plan was for, like, kind of a Web3 AI extended self. Basically, how do we accommodate for the splitting and parsing productivity identities? So I just wanted it to be said, because that was on the table as of 2 weeks ago. We kind of announced it in our breakout room as something the ETF came up with. So it's exciting to hear feedback on that.
Yeah, for another perspective there, voice, we try to use government IDs large because of regulations, right? They were trying to do that. Here, we don't care what your government name is. All we care is that you show up on video and that you're a unique person. And we can reach consensus on your name, just like we reach consensus on what your blockchain handle and what your public key is. And so that's that's another aspect of that. Matt.
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback on that. There's it's all of you. It's this effort that sort of brought me. I'm being a little bit glib here, but sort of brought me out of hiding. I spent, the better part of a dozen years erasing myself from the internet to the best I could. And it's these principles, and it's all of you, and it's the faith that I have that there's a chance to to replace the system is why I'm here. And the privacy piece is critical. And I think you're speaking a little bit about that, about my identity. Like, how does it's critical that you all trust me, that I trust you. So we have to have these face-to-face discussions, and we have to have a way to reason about, how we identify people and how we transmit information to one another. But I think that privacy piece, it's a critical part. It's a critical concern to me, that I have to give up that privacy in order to interact with all of you, and it's worth it.
Thanks. Yes. In a small town, you don't have as much privacy unless you go in a door and you shut the door, right? And that's where your privacy is. But if you're doing commerce or anything else, you don't have privacy and you have reputation. And that's why small towns tend to work. And when you get to large cities, there's so many people that you're now anonymous only by virtue of the fact that there's, hiding in the needle in a haystack. There's too many people to keep track of. And then you start to see the problems with inner city crime. And then how do governments try to do that? Well, they try to nail down identities and other things so they can start to reattach identity and consequences. And then how do you handle when strangers move from another city? Well, your ID follows you and all that. It's a blessing and a curse when you have those types of systems that extend beyond your small town. And it's a challenge in human evolution. No time in history that we're aware of, no recorded history. And we've been able to communicate on a global scale at the speed of light over long distances and travel like we do. And so we're not evolutionarily adapted to this new environment. So we're trying to figure it out. And it's going to be a challenge for mankind in the centuries and millennia ahead, if we don't destroy ourselves back to the Stone Ages first. Yes. Yes. I'll just sign off, and if you guys want to stay on and chat, it's up to you. But thank you guys so much. I'll see you this time next week.
See you in a week.
Thanks,
you, Dan. Everybody.
Thank you, Dan.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.